What's up, you guys? Joe Dobby here. I am now a Deck Out Gaming affiliate. Use Joe Dobbs Deck Out at checkout. Deck Out Gaming has tons of singles for Pokemon, Dragon Ball Super, and Digimon TCG, as well as One Piece. They now buy list as well, so don't hesitate to reach out, and they got your back. Really high customer service ratings. Thank you, guys. And yeah, let's get to the video. What's up, you guys? Joe Dobby here with a very special video for you. I have Zach, aka Robo Sushi, as our guest to cover the newly legal Ace box topper cards featuring Metalgarurumon and I think it's Wargreymon or Black Wargreymon.
Wargreymon. It is a black Wargreymon.
Yes, it is a black card Wargreymon. Ace cards that will be featured as legal to use starting BT13 format. So I was so excited that I had to jump on, and what better opportunity to jump on and explain this to you guys and how things are gonna work and get a little bit of some meta input from our Tier 0 judge, Zach. So yeah, if you don't mind doing a quick intro of yourself as well. Zach has a very cool YouTube channel that covers a lot of rulings as well. So Zach, yeah, please.
All right, thank you for the introduction. Like you said, you can call me Zach. That's what I have it as most things, but the YouTube channel is Robo Sushi. What I do on the channel mainly is upload ruling videos. I used to do some gameplays, and it's actually been a minute since I've done a ruling video. Time constraints and such, but we'll get back to it. But yeah, that's the main thing. I usually post the ruling videos to try to help people learn exactly how their cards work. So you know exactly how to play your deck more effectively sometimes, because some of the rulings can actually, knowing your rulings makes you a better player, in my opinion. So teaching people rulings also helps them improve themselves as a player as well. But that's mainly what I do. Like he also said, I'm level 0 judge for the Bandai games, so I am able to have a little bit of contact with the developers to try to work out some things, so I make sure I know how all the game mechanics and stuff work. And I was actually the one, as Joe Dobby mentioned, that was able to make this announcement for the Ace cards being legal, which I was super excited because it really will help diversify our BT13 format a little bit different than how it was over in Japan.
Well, I can't wait to put that Metalgarurumon in every single purple deck I'm gonna play, so.
Absolutely, it's just good. It's just good.
But diving right into it, man, if you don't mind, so with question 1, can you give us an explanation of the Blast Digivolution and the Ace mechanic, and ultimately just go over how it works?
Okay, so the main thing, one thing I want to mention at the start is you'll notice on a lot of these cards, if Josh puts them up or not, you should see them, or you can always pull them up yourself. You'll notice that they have the name, so for the ones that will be legal for BT13, Wargreymon and Metalgarurumon, and then afterwards they have the big words Ace in bold. This does not change the name of the card. And what I mean by that is, let's say you're playing Wargreymon Ace and you want to digivolve Wargreymon Ace into Wargreymon X Antibody, which digivolves on top of a Wargreymon for 1. That is a legal play. The Ace in the name doesn't count as part of the name like Wargreymon X Antibody would count. It's effectively just like an EX card if you're familiar with the Pokemon game. It still counts as Wargreymon. So you can use your plays like that if something digivolves on top of Wargreymon. The other thing that is mainly to do with this is the Blast Evolution part. That is what these cards are important for, and it's kind of like a mix of a trap card and a hand trap for any of you people that play Yu-Gi-Oh. So effectively what it is on your turn, on your opponent's turn, you're able to respond at a certain point to which you can use these Ace cards to digivolve for free from your hand. So if you have like an applicable Digimon, so in this situation we have Wargreymon, which just can digivolve on top of a black level 5 for 3. So whenever you get to the correct timing on your opponent's turn, you can then digivolve into that card for free from your hand. You still get your draw for your digivolve, and then usually there's some effect that can either let you defend, like in Wargreymon's case with blocker, or in Metalgarurumon's case, activate its effect that lets you gain memory and potentially ends your opponent's turn.
Sweet. So yeah, those are the two big key things to note regarding the name, the Blast Evolution, and the Overflow and Ace mechanic. So thank you for that. As far as the timing is concerned, if you don't mind going over the possible timings that we could actually use these cards on our opponent's turn. Because I'm pretty sure on our turn it's just a regular Evo for 3, right?
Yeah. On your turn, and most of them have their regular play cost or Digivolution cost.
Exactly.
And that's where you have to use them like normal.
Yeah, so with these timings on our opponent's turn, what are some of the scenarios where we'd be able to use the ace cards? And if you could go over that very briefly.
Okay, so there's a couple of parts to go over in this.
Yes.
If you get access to the updated rules, there's a change to how the attack process works whenever you do this with the ace cards. So before I explain it, originally, or how we play the game now, basically what the attack process works is you declare your target and then you suspend your Digimon to attack that target. This is where you do all your when attacking effects and any effects that occurs after that. That hasn't changed. That all still stays the same. But then afterwards, whenever you finish all of your when attacking effects, you'd hit a point called reaction timing, is what it's currently called.
Okay.
And reaction timing is where multiple different effects trigger. So blocker as an effect would trigger in the current rules, and then all the effects. The most recent one would be Black Wargreymon X Antibody that has the wording when an opponent's Digimon attacks. Cards that are worded like that and blocker would all trigger at this time, and then you would activate them in any order. So you could block, or you can activate the effect first, yada yada yada, and then you'd get to the end of the attack. And assuming nothing else happened, of course. What happens now in the new rules is after you finish your when attacking effects is when you hit something called, they've changed reaction timing to counter timing.
Okay.
Now it's a little weird because if you'll notice on the ace cards, they have like and blast digivolve counter. And so what happens in counter timing is they've kind of broken it up into 2 steps. The first step is effects that say when an opponent's Digimon attacks. This would be, as I mentioned, Black Wargreymon, X Antibody, and if you remember Rosemon from way back in the day in BT1, those effects all say when an opponent's Digimon attacks. Those would have to activate or trigger, then activate and resolve. And then you would get to the second part, and that's where we have, it's kind of weird, but it's counter timing. It's the counter part of counter timing, and it's the part where you can use these counter effects. Currently, the only counter effects that we have are the blast digivolves.
Okay.
There could be more in the future. We don't know because it's brand new, and there's only a handful of ace cards that have even been revealed. But it's at this point where you can activate the counter timing. You could use blast digivolve and digivolve your level 5 on field into Metalgarurumon or Wargreymon.
Okay, awesome. So at which point, so like you mentioned how there is a counter timing and then a so-called counter timing, which would involve those ace cards. In the first part of that, the counter timing, that includes the blocking, right, as well?
Oh, I'm sorry. I did forget to mention that. So after the counter time, after you can activate counter, your counter effect, so the second part of counter timing, you have now something specifically called block timing.
Oh, okay.
And at this point that you can block with a Digimon that can legally block. The reason why this is also important, I'm glad you mentioned this.
No worries,
The reason why this is important is there's a weird interaction that happens before the rule change where think about Hexablaumon, if any of you remember that from BT5. Hexablaumon was a super rare that said when a Digimon without sources can't block or attack, or can't block or something like that. But if something couldn't block in the current timing, you can still legally suspend it because of how the triggering works. It just doesn't redirect the attack. This can be used, currently, it's mainly used in stuff like Ulforce. So I can't block because I've been frozen by like a blue flare Digimon. But I can suspend myself to block even though it wasn't redirected to activate all of my when this Digimon gets suspended effects. In the new timing, when we have block timing, blocker no longer triggers. So it's not a triggered effect. You can think of it more. I always use other card games. You think of it something more like Magic, where you just block the attack. You don't affect the attacking Digimon. You just block the attack yourself by suspending the blocker Digimon. And with this change, if your Digimon is under the effect of like a Blue Flare card or Hexablaumon and it says it cannot block, it can't suspend anymore. So you can't get those shenanigans where you could suspend and not redirect, but still get to use your effects. You're legally not allowed to suspend the Digimon for blocker because of the effect on it to keep it from blocking.
I see. So
yeah.
So if we could summarize this, because this is a pretty heavy piece.
Yeah, so the summary would be declare attack, when attacking effects, when your opponent's Digimon attacks effects, counter effects, blocker, end of attack.
Okay, so attack when attacking effects, when opponent attack effects, counter, and then block. Got it. So that's very straightforward.
Yeah, so they've extended it a little bit by giving reaction timing 3 different points. But with counter timing and with some of the other new cards coming out, it works really well. Takes a little bit of time to learn because it is different, but it's not too bad.
I think I really appreciate that it's been split up into these so-called like micro phases, and simply put, reason being is things can get very murky with Digimon. A lot of people who are newer to the game tend to trigger when attacking effects and their opponent blocks before those when attacking effects resolve, or they resolve something else. So there's a lot of murkiness to the timing and the phases, and I'm glad that they've made this very, very pretty much concise for everybody. So as long as we're practicing, guys, we'll pretty much turn these micro phases into a habit that we'll use. So now we're gonna be into the situation where we do the thing where the thing in other card games we're like response.
You're gonna have response. So when you declare your attack, it's like counter timing.
All right. So that said, I have one quick question before we dive into the third one. Now, when we're looking into being de-digivolved, for example, you have a counter card that says, Blast Evo, when digivolving, de-digivolve an opposing Digimon. It's not there yet, but what if we did, and we de-digivolved that blocker? During the blocker, after that, we go into the blocking step. And because the blocker effect, like on the level 6 card, for example, has been de-digivolved, that Digimon can no longer legally block because it's off the field, right?
Yes, exactly. Since blocker, it's not a triggered effect anymore now. Yes. And it's still like even now that's still the case because even though it's triggered, it's the same thing. Like it's no longer there. The target for blocker is no longer there. But since there is no blocker anymore, you can't actually activate it because again, it's not a triggered effect. It's just at this timing you can suspend a Digimon to eat an attack.
Perfect.
The same can be said as if you had something that didn't have blocker and then gets de-digivolved into something that does have blocker,
then it would get blocker.
You can be able to block.
Yeah. All right, guys, hold on to those de-digivolve cards.
Very strong about with how the ace cards work too.
Yeah, and actually this segues really well into our third question regarding overflow, right? So what does overflow mean, and what are scenarios where overflow would take place? Because from my knowledge, it punishes the use of counter cards to a degree, at which you have to be very smart when you use it. But yeah, if you don't mind.
Yeah, so the thing about the counter, a lot of the ace Digimon that are really shown off, they also have this overflow. Because if you notice with a lot of these ace Digimon, Wargreymon, for example, it's 11k, it's a level 6, you can Digivolve for free on your opponent's turn, you have blocker, you have a dice effect. It has a play cost of just 6, so you can you can just hard play it. So where's the negative? Well, a lot of these have this effect called overflow. And in my opinion, the cost is still doesn't balance out right. I think the play cost is a little too low still, but that's neither here nor there. But overflow is not a triggered effect. It's actually a game mechanic. It's a rule.
That's big.
And effectively, so because of this, it happens instantly. So what overflow is whenever the card would leave the battlefield. Now this is a very specific thing and I'll go over why, because it differs a little bit between some other things, but whenever it would leave the battle area at all, instantly lose that 4 memory for the ace cards. There's no triggering, there's no waiting for effects to resolve. The second that card leaves the battle area, you lose the 4 memory. Now, what counts as leaving the battle area? So let's say you have your Wargreymon, just because we've already been talking about it, and it gets deleted by a Gaia Force or something. Whenever it gets deleted, you lose 4 memory. It's gone from the battle area to the trash.
Yeah.
What happens if it gets de-digivolved? The ace card goes from the top card back into the level 5, and the Wargreymon goes to trash. It's left the battle area. The card itself has left the battle area. You lose 4 memory instantly.
Yeah.
Making de-digivolve a much better effect, in my opinion.
Yeah.
As well as source stripping. So let's say you have an Omnimon Zwart on top of your Wargreymon, and they use something like Sorai to strip the top 4 sources, moving that Wargreymon from source to the to the trash. It's left the battle area. You instantly lose the 4 memory.
Okay.
A few of the things where it doesn't trigger, and this is kind of a balance reason, because if you think about when other things leave the battlefield, the prime example is Galacticmon. You know what Galacticmon does?
Yes.
So whenever it leaves the battle area, counts a little bit different, or it says leave play. And specifically leaving play counts as all those things I mentioned before, going to security, doing all that, like deletion, moves to security, but it also counts as moving underneath another Digimon. Correct. So like if you activated Astral Snatcher, you could use Galactimon's effect to negate that by trashing the sources.
Yeah.
If you were to take the Wargreymon and use Astral Snatcher and put it underneath one of your other Digimon, or put it underneath one of your Tamers for like a Reshidermon Superior Modes effect, the card itself is still technically in the battle area. So it's still underneath a Digimon or underneath a Tamer, so you wouldn't lose memory for that. And I think that probably had to do with being able to use like Kaiser Nail, because if you did it the way that like Galacticmon works, and you Kaiser nailed a Wargreymon from underneath something and played it, you would lose that memory.
Yeah, you'd punish yourself for
you move it from one stack. So you pay 8 for a Kaiser Nail. So it probably has something to do with that. So as long as the card stays somewhere in the battle area, either played out as a new Digimon, tucked underneath another Digimon, or tucked underneath a Tamer, you won't lose the memory.
So I actually really like that, and the reason being is obviously there's a fine balance between how much more can you be punished for this crucial play in the form of counter cards versus, you know, the versatility of the card itself. So from a design standpoint, being able to stay on the battle area through certain means with the card allows for a versatile kind of like build structure. Like for example, with Kaiser Nail being the best example of that, because you know, as blue and yellow start to get support for each other, that Magna Angemon is going to look very spicy, right?
Especially that new one. Goodness.
And I like that if the player, on the other hand, is able to remove that Magna Angemon that was just Kaiser nailed, for example, they are doubly rewarded for doing so, right? I do like that, because Kaiser Nail just bringing out a lot of these cards, for example, could start to get really crazy. So I like that it makes the turn player think like, is it smart to do this right now, knowing that if they remove it, I basically provide upwards of 4 memory or more, you know?
Exactly, because there's plays that you can do because of the fact that like Wargreymon and Metalgarurumon are 6 cost. The first thing that comes to mind, Omnimon Zwart. This bad boy right here.
I like how he's ready to go.
He comes out. I had one sitting over here, but he comes out and he spawns out 2 level 6s. That's really intimidating. But as the player who throws out 2 level 6s, if your opponent has some way to answer both of those on your turn, you just lost 8 memory. Exactly. You paid 6 to Digivolve into Zwart, and then they get to play a Gaia Force for 4 cost. You know? Exactly. So you have to kind of like think about the give and take. That's the nice part about Overflow.
So that,
I had one other thing to mention about Overflow, because I think it was a question that came up earlier. If, say you had, or that came up in the past, say you have like an effect that discards a card, you're trashing, and you trash like a Metalgarurumon Ace from your hand to the trash, it's never in the battle area at any point. So you wouldn't lose memory from that. And the other thing that I saw come up is like some weird situation when you delete a Digimon in the raising area. I think that mainly has to do with like the Gizmon cards.
Okay.
Or like Omnimon.
Okay.
Or something like that. If it goes from the breeding area directly to the trash, you also don't lose the memory because at no point was it ever actually in the battle area.
Yeah, so I can see newer players seeing that gray area, but for an experienced player, it should be fairly straightforward. Whatever, as long as it's in the battle area, you guys, you're not losing memory. But if it's going from any other source, security, egg, or hand, or top of deck, and it's going directly to trash, then you're not losing anything because it was never in the battle area in the first place.
Yeah.
All
exactly.
right, sweet. So that's cool. I'm so excited now. Like the depth of this game is just going off the walls. So now we're gonna go into a fun question. What is a tricky ruling that regarding Blast Evos and the Ace mechanic that you've seen, and what's an example of it being resolved?
So currently, there's, as of the time of this recording, of all the revealed Ace cards, we have the 4 that are coming out in BT14, the promo Metal Tyrannomon, Diaboromon, and then the 2 starter decks ones, Metalgarurumon and Wargreymon that we're going to be getting in BT13. All of those effects are relatively pretty straightforward. So there's nothing too crazy, but there is a card that I think some people slept on for a little bit because they didn't really know about the rule change. And this has to do with BT14 Genai. I'm not going to worry about his on-play effect, but specifically his other effect is on your opponent's turn, he's a white tamer. On your opponent's turn, when an opponent's level 5 or higher Digimon attacks, by suspending this tamer, you can move 1 Digimon from your breeding area to the battle area. Now, this goes back into that whole attack breakdown thing. You'll notice it says when an opponent's level 5, so when an opponent's Digimon attacks. This is the first part of counter timing. So effectively, you could have an empty board and they swing with their level 5. And then you get to suspend Genai to raise up your, let's say, Wargreymon, your purple Wargreymon.
I like where this is going, just letting you know.
Yeah, exactly. And then you get to activate in the second half of counter timing, where you can activate your counter effects, a Blast Digivolve, effectively letting you Blast Digivolve from the breeding area. They attack, and all of a sudden, they don't think anything about this level 5 sitting in your battle area. They're like, oh, I'm just going to stop the combo. And then all of a sudden, it comes out, and your Solar Lugamon that they're thinking, oh, that's just the combo piece, turns into a Metalgarurumon Ace and ends your turn and ruins your day. So this is one of the things. It's not super complicated, but knowing how the new battle area or battle process works makes this card so much better than some people initially gave it credit for.
Exactly, because if you didn't know that reaction timing and those phases, you would raise the Digimon and you'd assume that you can't counter.
Yeah,
you'd assume that it's just a level 5 and it stays there, right?
Yeah, maybe you have a blocker and you want to raise it out to block. Like that's basically all you can get out of it. But if you know the breakdown, all of a sudden, you know, you could do anything. You could be your level 4 into one of the level 5 aces.
Yeah, exactly. I absolutely love that, and I'm going to stock up on my Genais. I gotta find some alt Genais if they ever make them. Final question, and this is more of a fun one. What's your favorite Ace card revealed to date? Is it Genai?
No, my favorite Ace card actually is, I'm a blue player at heart.
Okay.
I've always been a blue player.
Yeah.
So the card that I like the most is Zudomon Ace.
I saw that.
Couple of reasons. One, Zudomon Ace has an insanely strong effect because it blast evolves for free. It's a level 5. And then you get to trash 2 Digivolution cards from under your opponent's Digimon.
Yeah.
That doesn't have to be under the same Digimon. It can be underneath more Digimon, and then you get to bounce a card with a Digimon with no Digivolution sources.
Okay.
So this has like a whole bunch of uses because it keeps away chip damage. It makes it so where even if they have like a level 6 that only has a couple of sources because clearly you play this in a source strip deck. All of a sudden their big attack just bounces back to their hand and they've lost their entire stack. And I've always loved it. Like, this lets me play Hexablow and Hexablow just not be bad.
Yeah, no, so it adds a little bit of speed and counterplay to Hexablow, because Hexablow is like, I need to do all of this to prevent you from doing anything, but now you have like, I can do this in the meanwhile as I get to my stunning condition, right? So
exactly.
Yeah,
and then it's, if you have a memory tamer, it's 4 cost. All the BT 14 ace cards are level 5 4 costs. So with the amount of memory gain that you get from source strip and heritables, you can drop this guy, strip something, bounce something back to hand, and still keep it your turn.
Wow. So that is absolutely awesome. I'm very excited for this. And yeah, you guys, let me know what you guys think of Robo Sushi's awesome mechanic explanation regarding Ace and Overflow and just basically counters. I actually am so glad that you went over the phases specifically, because that's something I was totally unaware of. And I think the best advice, and I don't know if you can agree with this, is I guess the best advice regarding these Ace cards is to really know the steps involved from when attacking to the block step to actually resolving the attack. So there's a lot more that goes into it now. The depth of the gameplay looks absolutely amazing. Honestly, it's got me so excited in a time where Digimon's kind of slowed down for me. So this is like a really awesome renewed thing, and I think we are heading in a very amazing kind of like new layer of Digimon. What do you think?
Yeah, no, definitely. Like, the amount of versatility that these already allow. So currently it's not a ton, because it's, if you think about, again, I hate going back to other card games, but if you think about Yu-Gi-Oh, every time a new mechanic was introduced in Yu-Gi-Oh, they usually didn't do a whole lot. Maybe it showed up in one deck, maybe this other deck showed up, but all it takes is like a couple. They'll keep on putting these. This is their new thing, so they'll keep on adding ace cards to the following sets. I think we already found out that EX5 is going to have a handful of different ace cards, and then EX15 will have even like 5 more. They already announced those. So there's just so much you can do with these ace cards that really will expand the meta. Like you said earlier, response. That's one of the most terrifying words you can ever hear, and then nobody's heard it in Digimon, aside from whenever they're flipping those unknown security cards.
Exactly.
And this is only like the tip of the iceberg. Blast Evo is only the tip of the iceberg. That word on these blast cards, counter, hand counter, they can do so much more with that.
Excited.
They could turn that into option cards.
Yes.
They could turn that into Digimon that play themselves, or Digimon that do an effect in hand.
Yeah.
There's all sorts of stuff that they could do. And I think right now it hasn't done a lot, and we've kind of seen that from the early Japanese meta, where it's just a little bit here, a little bit there. But I think as more sets come out, I think by this time next year, or by like Nats, even whenever we'll have like EX5, I think Nats is around. I don't know when Nats is going to be, but I think it's like January or February. We should have EX5 by then. Yeah, so we might have EX5 by then. So at that point, there'll be so many more, and then we'll have seen more stuff by that point. I mean, it's going to turn into not a whole new game, but a much more in-depth game, I think, than people had originally thought when they started playing the game. I think it's going to bring a lot of people back. Yeah. And I think it's going to interest a lot of new players.
Yeah, I mean, as soon as I saw that they introduced it, I was back in. I'm like, okay, I can't wait till October, because now you're even introducing Metalgarurumon in purple, which is like my favorite.
I bet you were super excited about that new really busted EX5 Metalgarurumon.
Oh my gosh, yes. So I'm a huge Gabumon fan, but I like the antagonists, like the dark evolutions of Digimon. So I like Psychmon, I like Gabumon, I like Black Gabumon, and just seeing Metalgarurumon in purple and having all of that opportunity is really awesome. But yeah,
having that really bonkers card. I understand. You like broken cards, it's fine.
Oh yeah, I got it. Okay, well, that's pretty much it, you guys. Thank you so much once again, RoboSushi, aka Zach. His link will be in the description below, and that will include all of his awesome videos regarding some of the rulings that you guys will get to review. And yeah, I love the time that we've managed to share. And if you guys like the video and you want more stuff like this, like and subscribe. For now, peace. Bye.